Hi, Epic Recaps here, and today I am going to explain to you a 2015 American action thriller titled Run All Night. If you want to be spoiled, keep watching. The movie opens, and a man named Jimmy Conlon is lying on the ground suffering from a gunshot wound. As the life drains out of him, Jimmy narrates that life doesn't flash before your eyes when you die, but rather, all the regrets and mistakes you've made. In a flashback, Jimmy's son Mike is seen yelling and taking cover. The scene changes to 16 hours earlier, and Jimmy awakens in a bar after passing out drunk. Nicknamed the Gravedigger, he was a former hitman for best friend and Irish mob boss, Shawn Maguire, but is now just an angry drunk. He heads down to the basement where Danny Maguire, Shawn's son, is wrapping up a deal with some dirty cops. Down on hard times, Jimmy asks him for a loan of $800 to fix his broken heater. Danny agrees to loan him the money, but only if he fills in a Santa Claus for an upcoming party as the last guy canceled on him. Out of options, Jimmy reluctantly agrees. The scene changes to a local boxing gym, where Mike, Jimmy's estranged son and former boxer, mentors at-risk boys in the neighborhood. He favors a boy who is nicknamed Legs. The boy shows the most promise, but lacks commitment, and Mike tries to push him to realize his potential. At home, Mike is happily married to his wife Gabriella, and they have two daughters named Caitlin and Lily. Expecting their third child, Gabriella shows Mike the keepsake she is making for the baby, using old family photos. He notices an old photo of him as a child with Jimmy, and covers his dad with a cutout of his daughter. Meanwhile, Danny arranges a meeting between his father and some Albanians who want to sell heroin on Irish territory. Shawn wants no part of his old lifestyle and rejects the offer. The Albanians leave and tell Danny they'll be by to collect the money they gave him to secure the deal. After knocking back some scotch, a drunken Jimmy does the Santa gig at Shawn's house. Unable to control himself, he hits on another man's wife, and makes a fool of himself. The men throw him under a cold shower, and Jimmy is joined by Shawn upstairs. Friends since childhood, Jimmy tells him he is haunted by the faces of the men he's killed and is all alone as a result. Shawn tells him no matter what, he will always be there for him. Jimmy is sitting at a diner when he is met by Detective John Harding and his partner Detective Torres. Harding taunts him about his unpunished crimes and hands him his card, telling him to call him, should he ever feel the need to confess. The scene changes, and Mike, who is moonlighting as a limo driver, picks up the Albanians and drives them to Danny's house. While he is waiting outside, Mike sees Legs riding his bike alone and tells him to go home. Legs promises to do what he's told, but only if Mike lets him use his limo for his video. Meanwhile, inside the house, Danny gives the Albanians a bag of Monopoly money as a joke. The head Albanian threatens Danny, and he responds by shooting him dead and injuring his partner. The wounded Albanian runs outside limping, and Legs catches them on video as Danny shoots the man dead. Mike attempts to flee, but Danny breaks the window, and as he's about to shoot, he realizes he's Jimmy's son. Unaware that Legs is in the backseat, he forces Mike into the house at gunpoint, but is distracted by the sound of the limo door closing. Using the opportunity to escape, he runs into Danny's friend inside and they get into a struggle before Mike is able to get away. Running on foot, he manages to evade capture but drops his wallet, which Danny discovers. Mike runs home and calls Gabriella, who is at her brother Ricky's house with the girls. He tells her to stay there until he calls her back. Mike then hears a pounding sound at the door and opens it to find Jimmy standing there. Jimmy tells him he knows what went down at Danny's house and asks him not to call the cops. Stepping outside for a smoke, he notices Danny's car is parked out front. Inside, Danny appears with a gun and aims it at Mike. About to pull the trigger, he is shot by Jimmy from behind. Mike puts pressure on the wound, but is unable to save him. Jimmy picks up Danny's phone and calls Shawn, informing him that he just killed his son. Before he hangs up, he states that they know how this has to end, and Jimmy tells him he knows. Shawn goes to break the news to his wife, who slaps him in response and then falls to pieces. Back at the house, Jimmy leaves, and Mike calls the cops, saying his father shot Danny in self-defense. The dirty cops that met with Danny earlier arrive at Mike's house and arrest him when they identify Danny's body. Jimmy chases them through the streets until he rams them hard enough to crash through a store. He breaks Mike out of the car, and Mike grabs one of the cops' guns. The surviving cop attempts to shoot the two, and when Mike aims the gun at the cop, Jimmy stops him and shoots the cop instead. The pair escape into the underground subway but are followed by several of Shawn's men. They split up and Mike makes his way to a waiting train, while Jimmy fights off the other man in the restroom. He manages to take him out and joins Mike on the train. Mike wants to go to his family, but Jimmy tells him that Shawn will be plotting his revenge and come after both of them, including Mike's family. With no one to help them, Mike needs to get through the night with Jimmy in order to see another day. The men break into a car and split up. Jimmy makes a call to Detective Harding, who is at the crime scene, and believes that Mike is responsible for the death of the Albanians and the two cops. Jimmy tells him he will confess to the shootings and rat out Shawn on the condition he leaves Mike out of it. Meanwhile, Mike arrives at Ricky's house to warn Gabriella and the girls when two goons arrive, looking for them. The family hides in a shower stall and avoid getting found when the men get called away. Jimmy meets Shawn at an upscale restaurant and offers his life for his son. His old friend denies his request, and vows to kill Mike first, so Jimmy can feel the pain of losing his son before Shawn kills them both. Jimmy heads over to Ricky's, and they pack up Gabriella and the kids, and send them to Jimmy's remote cabin in the woods. Mike tells his father that Legs was there that night, and they need to get the recording he made to prove his innocence. Elsewhere, Shawn hires a hitman named Price, and instructs him to take out the men before morning. Arriving at Jimmy's house, he searches the house and finds an old photo of Mike taken at the cabin. Arriving at Legs' apartment, a neighbor spots them in the hall, and alerts the police. Price is still at Jimmy's house when he overhears the call coming on a police radio. Jimmy and Mike find Legs' brother, and no one seems to know where he is. Noticing the police presence outside, Mike and Jimmy begin to make their way out of the building. Price arrives as well and cuts the power to the building. Locating them with a night vision lens, Price and Jimmy fight as the building starts to burn down. Jimmy burns Price's face and gets him down on the ground, giving Mike an opportunity to shoot Price. Jimmy tells him not to pull the trigger, and they run before the cops show up and the building explodes. Arriving at his brother Eddie's house, Jimmy tells him that he killed Shawn's son. Eddie is freaked out and tells Mike that Jimmy killed their cousin because he was going to testify against Shawn. Eddie warns him that his father cannot be trusted, and will sell him out to Shawn. Mike storms out, and arrives at the cabin where his wife and children are hiding out. Jimmy decides to end this once and for all, and he goes to the bar where Shawn operates his business. He kills all the men there, and he and Shawn end up running out to a train yard where they start shooting at each other. Shawn starts to run, and Jimmy hesitates to shoot him, but knowing that Shawn won't stop until he's gotten Mike, he pulls the trigger. Wounded, he attempts to keep running but falls. Jimmy goes over to Shawn and holds him as he dies. Legs is at the police station, and shows Detective Harding the recorded video of Danny killing the Albanian mobster outside his building, who then instructs forensics to go over ballistics again. Jimmy arrives at the lake house and informs Mike that Shawn is dead and his family is safe. After Mike asks him to leave, Gabriella comes out and invites him in to meet his granddaughters. Not wanting the kids to witness Jimmy's arrest, Mike takes the family down to the dock. Jimmy notices Gabriella's collage and looks out the window and witnesses the family's tender moment. Just then, a gun is fired through the window and it's Price, standing in the distance. Mike hears the gunshots and tells Ricky to take the girls somewhere safe. He grabs his gun and exchanges fire with Price through the woods, but he is severely wounded, and he falls to the ground. Knowing the shot was fatal, with his last bit of strength, he puts one bullet in the rifle and raises it in time to shoot Price in the head, before he can kill Mike. Mike rushes to his dad's side right before he dies. Harding and his partner show up, and he tells Mike he knows he's innocent. He then looks in Jimmy's hand to see that he's holding a list of everybody he's ever killed. Later on, Mike is at the gym watching Legs fight another kid. Legs beats his opponent, making Mike proud. He returns home to find Gabriella and the girls making Christmas cookies. He goes into his room and puts on formal attire. Before leaving, he takes one more look at the picture of him and Jimmy by the lake. The end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a comment down below. For more movie recaps, don't forget to click the like and subscribe button. See you next time.